YouTube and seeing if, if I'm streaming. It says that I am, and it's going slow, so I'm guessing I'm streaming. I don't know. My videos? I don't know. You're looking at this with me? Live? Here we go, live. All right. So anyway, I'm going to carry on as if this is live. I see things going up and down as I speak. I guess I could open this up and put it on mute, put it somewhere else just so I could see. Yeah, I'm going to start. Yeah,
Put it on.
Yeah, okay. All right, anyway. There is no one here, so how would I know? Well, maybe you come in later, maybe you won't. Maybe I'll be screaming into the ether. It really doesn't matter too much. It is what it is. So I was just inspired to come on today and just share this video with you of some folks being odious hypocrites, obvious grifters, just scandalous scoundrels. I very rarely see people show their true colors in such a blatant way, and then see large swaths of people just pretend that it's not what it is. And people can bury their head in the sand all they want. And, I may say some things to you today and you may think, well, he's crazy. Okay. All right. But you know what? That's not true is not an appropriate argument. That you're crazy is not an appropriate argument. They've been saying that about old Alex Jones for years, but last I checked, he had a 98% track record of being correct. 98. So if you hate Alex Jones for being incorrect, what do you think about your weatherman? Must really dislike that fella. So let's see if we can go here. And I was just looking at this video of right here. In fact, it's going to pick it up right where I wanted it to, kind of. So I'll close INGSOC and some other dumb stuff that I got up here. It really doesn't matter. When you got to make certain stretches, when you say, well, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. I've always really disliked that. No, it's what you said. It's never how you said it. You can't say, well, you were angry. You sounded angry when you said it. Therefore, I'm taking it. I'm going to twist the context, or you sounded sad or glad or anything. No, to use the words, maybe the person is upset. What you're doing is ad hominem. You're going to the man and you're attacking the person and maybe the emotions they were showing when they said something. You're ignoring the message itself. I've said this for years now. Don't attack the messenger. Don't kill the messenger because you hate the message. It's not the messenger's fault. It's very probable that if you hate him for telling you, he knew you were going to. Therefore, show a little respect. This is someone that's actually putting themselves out there to, in theory, try to benefit you. For myself, it's not theory, it's fact. I do this so that I can benefit you. I want you to benefit from this. I want you to open your eyes. I don't want you to be angry, but I want you to open your eyes and benefit from these things. It's a shame if the horrible people win. It's a shame if the ones that are so drastically changing the shape of society in the Western world win. We have a beautiful society. The idea that this is, I'm not going to get off on that tangent, but yes, the Western society created many beautiful things. All you have to do is look. And some of those things that credit is being taken away and given to other people that had no hand whatsoever in creating these things. They had a hand in creating other things. Just as beautiful, maybe. Just as important, possibly. I'm not going to say that it's not. I don't know. I'm just saying that the Western world, I'm going to speak for the Western world right now, is a great place to be. My ears always perk up when I hear these oxymorons like social distancing, social justice, government intelligence, jumbo shrimp, loose slacks, tight-fitting slacks. These things, anytime I hear this, an oxymoron, something that by its name contradicts itself, my ears perk up. I start looking for hypocrites. I start looking for people that repeat the same slogans and the same talking points over and over again as if they're parrots. Now, and I want to make this point right now, it'd be pretty obvious if you've followed me for any length of time. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I don't like either one. I am a Trump supporter, but he's Republican. He's a rhino, but in a different way. He's a Republican in name only. He's not a Republican, or I would not support him. He would be no different than this Mike Johnson, the guy that just took over the speaker, who the day before he took over, no, we shouldn't be funding Ukraine, takes over Speaker of the House, gets press conference, first thing he says, most important thing we do is continue funding the war. Who gets to these people? What do they show them? Why do they change their mind without explanation? I had one mouth-breathing idiot tell me that, they changed their mind because they find humanity. And of course, this moron only says that when they change their mind to align with a lefty view. And I know brainwashed idiots on the other side will say the same thing for their people, constantly deflecting, constantly making. Listen, if you have to make an excuse for someone that you support, then you're not supporting them. You are a member of a cult, and you are then defending your leader, your infallible leader. That's never going to be me. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. They use, it's amazing, the Orwellian terms that this guy has invented about like front to back speech and double speak. I believe he says that, or it's double speak. I'm almost sure. That's the most INGSOC Orwellian thing I've ever heard somebody say in public unironically. It honestly is. So let's see. Trump says peacefully and patriotically, make your feelings known. Don't harm the police. Don't do anything. We're the party of law and order. Don't do anything bad. Go home, he said at one time. So they found somebody that interpreted that as destroy, let's go, take over, stay here. The opposite of everything he said. So then this expert is confronted with this. Hang on one second. These are I think they intentionally made the sound terrible when they're trying to show what these idiots say. But so I'm going to turn on the caption so that when they're going on in the future here and this video is playing, you can see what they're saying. Pretty important because I think they show a politician called Maxine Waters who explicitly calls for violence, who explicitly calls to harass people in public and make them not welcome. That's something in a polite society.
Did she answer the same for those 5?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let's just finish the clip, and I'll ask you a few more questions at the end of this clip, okay?
Sounds good. We are going to fight like hell. We're going to fight like hell. Fight like hell. And we just have to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. If you're fighting, political revolution, not being that millions are about to stand up and fight. And fight. Stand up and fight back. To fight. Continue to fight. Once again, fight back in the fight. We're fighting back. Line up. Just like administration. Get up, get what you've done, fight for. We'll also fight and challenge it in every way that we can. Fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets with the Congress, in the courts, in the streets with the fight to defend. What are you going to take on this fight? The American people are going to have to fight. Get in this fight. Get in this fight. All right, stop fighting. We got to keep fighting and keep focused. We will fight. But we must fight. We've been fighting. We can fight, but we also need to fight. This is going to be a fight. We're just fighting our lives. What do you mean fighting our lives? This is a fight for our life. Fighting for our lives. We are in this fight for our lives. We cannot ever give up.
Okay. You heard a few speakers in there say we're going to take the fight to the streets. Do you remember hearing that among some of the speakers? 2 of them, I believe, said that.
Okay, I trust your characterization.
You don't want me to play that whole thing again, do you?
I'd rather not.
Okay. And so there's a couple of speakers that said we're going to take the fight to the streets. if they were at a rally with far right-wing extremists in it, and they used the term fight, and we're going to take the fight to the streets, would those far right-wing extremists interpret that as a call to violence?
They had a relationship with the speaker that involved a history of that speaker promoting and endorsing violence, both before and after violent incidents occurred, had developed a relationship, signaling various things that were important to that community, that culture, signaling things in terms of their support for various grievances, using language representing threats as existential in nature and requiring violent action. If all of those things were present, then yeah, quite possibly they would interpret it in that fashion.
Okay. And if those things weren't present, it's unlikely they would interpret those terms, fight and take the fight to the streets, as a call to violence, correct?
It's always hard to predict. You take something out of the equation again, that if you're just saying in isolation one thing, and if that one thing is not present, then yeah, that would make sense that it would have a substantial influence in terms of a lack of action that might not be taken.
So let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say there's a speaker, say one of those speakers in there that says, we're going to fight like hell and we're going to take the fight to the streets. That's what they say. And they say that at a big rally, and that rally has far-right extremists in it. But they don't have a history of promoting violence, at least none that the right-wing speakers know of. And they don't have any perceived relationship with the far-right-wing extremists. So they don't have those two factors. Would that be considered a call to violence?
What are the other contextual factors present?
I want to let this go, but I got to say, why don't we ask these questions when it comes to Donald Trump? I mean, every time they ask him and no, he hears something from Donald Trump and gets in his mind and says, no, he said this, but he meant that. This is insanity. It really is. And people are pretending not to see it. I don't believe there's anyone with an IQ above room temperature that doesn't see what's going on. It's blatant. I mean, it's come out now that there's been 40 FBI agents embedded with Joe Biden over the last 15 years that have mountains of evidence of his wrongdoings, and they refuse to prosecute him because they apparently have control of him. Oh, no, they don't. Donald Trump was completely controlled by Putin. He wasn't controlled by anybody. And that's why he's going through what he's going through right now. And again, I want to say this clearly. Do I know that? No, I don't know that, because I cannot go inside of his mind. I'm going with what I see and what it is, what you can see, what anyone with a brain can see. I'll play a little more of this.
So again, some of these hypotheticals, when they're asked without enough information, it's hard for me to answer that question. It would depend on what's the context of that speech that's being given. Why were they saying certain things? What was it related to? The audience is going to receive, even with a lack of information, you could still imagine that our audience would receive certain calls to action in a particular way, depending on the situation.
Okay. Let's take a look at a few more videos. And I think they'll provide a little more context, but perhaps not enough. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Exhibit 1046, please. Okay, let's stop that right there. So you see the woman in there, and I'll represent you that she's a congresswoman, and she's speaking to a crowd, and she's telling the crowd to push back and make people not feel welcome there, and people are cheering her on. is that a call to violence, or would you need additional contextual information?
It would, one of the factors that would be important in terms of contextual information is are there individuals and groups present in the audience that have known violent histories for committing acts of political extremism, violent political extremism?
I'm just going to pause this for a second to say, as you can see, I'm conducting a little business in the background. I just watched this morning. I just want you to see all this as it escalates. It goes from Maxine Waters' call to violence, and then it goes to a much more extreme call to violence that you may or may not have seen. I want you to see it. No one's prosecuting this senator that's coming up.
Saying, making a statement like that with a crowd that has that known history is different than saying those things in a crowd where that's not present.
Okay. So this is Congressman Waters. She may or may not know if people have that history or who have that history in that crowd.
Okay.
So you're saying, well, maybe it's a call to violence if there are people with that history in the crowd, and maybe it's not a call to violence if there's people without that history in the crowd. Is that a fair characterization?
And that would be one aspect. We're only talking about one aspect, though.
So what other aspects would I need?
Go back to what we just discussed, which is the history in terms of relationship between the speaker and members of the audience.
Okay, great. Let's look at number 147. Okay. So they're joking about smacking people there, and she's laughing at it. Does that give you enough context to know whether or not that would be perceived as an endorsement of or a call to violence?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, again, it's a fairly short clip. I'm not familiar with the speakers as far as the radio hosts. There's just not much contextual information for me to say.
This guy is saying that he knows all the people in the crowd, or he's going to pick out like the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers, what are great organizations. This is insane. It really is insane. Is anybody going to say that that's okay? That he says he can read minds? Is this Minority Report?
Okay. Let's look at number 1048, please.
We go to this state, over the last 3 years, women's reproductive rights have come under attack in a way we haven't seen in our history. From Louisiana to Missouri to Texas, Republican legislatures are waging a war on women, all women. They're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Judge, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you paid the price. You won't know I hate you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Okay.
Won't know it hit you.
Let's talk about that one a little bit. Do you know who that is speaking, or do you understand the context behind that?
I know who the speaker is.
Okay. And do you understand the context that was involved in a debate with respect to abortion and the possibility of the United States Supreme Court issuing a decision?
Yes, that's my understanding based on what I saw.
Okay. Did you have a pre-existing understanding before looking at this video?
This particular clip?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Okay. So you heard Senator Schumer. He talked about how women are coming under attack, how people are waging war on them, and taking fundamental rights. Is that language characteristic of some of the language used by far right-wing extremists? I'm not saying he is one, but does it have the same characteristics of some of the language used by far right-wing extremists?
One of the things I would want to know more about in order to more fully answer your question would be the history of the speaker's use of the term war, and whether there's evidence, basically, that would suggest that the speaker really believes that a literal war is taking place and that some type of action is required, or whether the speaker is using a more kind of figurative type of term in terms of war. So without that information, then it's really hard to assess how the speaker is using that term war.
Okay. Does the speaker using the phrase, "we're coming under attack," does that create a sense of self-defense? And does that create a sense of self-defense among the listeners?
It could. Again, the history of the speaker's use of the terms and their understanding of the terms, how they used it in the past, whether they used it in the past. These would all be important, kind of, again, contextual factors to look at.
So you can't really tell just looking at the words.
I don't think there's a social scientist in the world that would say you can take just words at face value. Context is always important, whether we're talking about violence or otherwise.
Okay, let's take a look.
He's absolutely wrong. A functionalist, a behavioralist, most so quote unquote social scientists, which I don't believe this guy is, would say, yeah, when someone tells you what they are, believe them. And I could go expand on that a little bit more. I don't mean what some people would twist that into. In other words, somebody comes and says, I believe I'm disabled and I don't have a right arm. Help me saw it off. No. I believe I'm blind. Help me pour Drano in my eyes. Actually happened. No. If you help your patient do that, you need help. You're sick. You're not, choose the term, but you're not normal. Well, this has been fun. Kind of wanted to give it a shot. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not even going to make a bunch of commentary. I think it speaks for itself. I don't want to mix my opinions up in it too much because then, inevitably some frothing right-wing maniac will be like, you didn't defend whatever right-wing thing enough, or some frothing at the mouth pinko commie will come out, Joe Biden's brilliant and doesn't have any cognitive problems. And, whatever. So what I just want to do right now is to bring you some information, and you can choose, you can decide, you can figure out for yourself if you see double speak in the person that's on the screen right now. If you see someone that will say, one person, oh, I understand the context completely. In fact, I can read their mind. I know what's going on in their inner self. And the other person, well, they say, go hurt people. Hey, you reap the whirlwind. Well, I don't know the context of that. Insanity. And you know what I always say, if you forget everything I've said throughout this whole video, no problem. It's not a big deal. It's just the gases and mouth sounds of a truck driving moron. But don't ever forget this. Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, family member, or loved one has done seems to be so huge you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, my beloved American friends and everyone else, at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones in your life will